wanted to mention this before. Some of you have not been out to visit us here, our new home. And if you would like, Wednesday, Thursday, or Sunday, about 1 to 3, it would be very convenient for us here if you'd like to come out and visit. We'd like to have you, enjoy having you. All right, now back to our work, and I'm going to show you life as it is from the second creation of Genesis, and then how we are led back to the first. So follow this now carefully, but relax. Let there be no mental strain, because even though you could memorize it, it won't help you. And I don't particularly care whether you understand it as much as I care about your being relaxed. And let this just slip in. Don't help it. Don't strain. Mind forms its own conditions of matter, body, form. Mind forms its own conditions of body. Mind forms and governs itself as matter. Mind, free of theories, superstitions, beliefs, and false concepts, governs matter, material form, harmoniously and eternally. Mind is the essence of matter and governs all its forms. Forms change to fit mind's functions. Clouded by theory, superstition, false concepts, matter or form appears distorted, painful, ugly. When the mind receives the light of knowledge, the appearances conform more nearly to mind's pure form. As soul governs its spiritual activity and form, so mind, clear of hypnotism, the belief in good and evil, receives the full light of soul. I repeat, as soul governs its spiritual activity and form, so does mind, clear of hypnotism, clear of the belief in good and evil, receives the full light of soul. Mind then becomes a pure instrument of soul, and the body, matter, form, expresses the harmonies of mind and soul, or rather, the harmonies of soul through mind. Now, the mind, in its unillumined state, filled with materialistic beliefs, theories, opinions, doctrines, creed, can only manifest its own state of chaos. But a mind freed becomes the instrument through which the creative principle of life, which is soul or spirit, can express harmonious form, eternal form. Now, throughout all ages, there has been, or there have been, attempts to bring about a state of mind from which is removed all ignorance, superstition, fear. And of course, as you know, there are those who have attained such a state of mind. We know that whoever it is that was known as Lao Tzu of China became completely dehypnotized, so that his mind was a clear channel through which truth could manifest and express itself. And there aren't many statements of truth as pure as that of Lao Tzu's The Way. We know that Gautama the Buddha, in his state of illumination, became so dehypnotized that although he was searching for something that would remove sin, disease, and death from the earth and poverty, in this pure state of illumination he beheld the truth: there is no sin, disease, death, or poverty. These are only creations of the mind. When the mind is hypnotized. We know that Jesus, the Christ, in the attaining of Christhood, actually attained the dehypnotized state of mind that saw through appearances to reality. Judge not by appearances, judge righteous judgment. Who hath sinned, this man or his parents? Neither do I condemn thee. He saw through the appearance to the reality, and that can only be done in this state of dehypnotization. Now, the question in modern centuries has been, how does one become dehypnotized? How does one attain a state of consciousness free of superstition, ignorance, greed, lust, animality, mad ambition, materialism? And there are many paths that aim in that direction. I will say this to you, that the discovery of our message on that subject is this: students serious enough in wanting to be free of not only the evils of human existence, but even the good. In other words, students sufficiently desirous of living the spiritual life can attain some measure of that dehypnotization of freedom, the amount, of course, depending on the degree of their own devotion. Do not misunderstand me. I am making no claims to having attained complete liberation. I am saying to you that whatever measure of freedom from this world that I've experienced has been brought into my experience through this: the belief in good and evil is that which produces the mesmerism of human experience. The degree in which you can look at person, place, thing, condition, and see neither good nor evil in them is the degree of your freedom. Now, in healing work, I apply that this way. As you know, I never ask the name of the patient, and I never ask the name of the disease or the condition, and I don't care, because I wouldn't know what to do about them if you told me. And those people who spend a lot of time writing me diagnosis seldom realize how futile it is. I know less about the body than most people. I have investigated the subject of body less than most people. And so when you say there's a pain on the right side, I haven't any more idea what it might be, probably, than you have. So that I'm not interested in physical diagnosis, nor am I interested in identity, human identity. I am interested in the principle of life, and I apply it. And it is in this wise. Regardless of the name or nature of the negative experience that you bring to me, my reaction within me is, it is neither good nor evil. Now that's it. And that's it clearly and concisely stated. It is not good and it is not evil. That is, the properties, the qualities of good or evil are not in that person or that condition. Now let us go back a bit. You're all familiar with this example. This is my hand. And I say to you that my hand is not a good hand and it is not an evil hand. It is merely my hand. And in it there is no good and no evil. And if I were the most benevolent person in all the world and gave away everything I had, my hand would still not be good, nor would it be benevolent. My hand is but an instrument for my use. So is my heart and my liver and my lungs, and my head and my feet and my brain. Every part of me, from the top to the bottom, is an instrument, and it has no qualities of good or of evil. But it reflects or expresses the qualities of my state of consciousness. And if I have a mind imbued with evil, my hand may punch, or my hand may kill, or my hand may hold back, and eventually it'll wither. If I am imbued with qualities of good myself, then my body becomes an instrument of good. The secret lies in the word I. Now, in the human stage, if I am a good human, my body will more than likely be used only for good purposes. If I'm an evil person, I can use it sometimes for good and sometimes for evil. But now, let us suppose that we go back to the basic spiritual revelation given to the world by every great mystic who has ever lived. And what do you find? That even I am neither good nor evil. For I is God. I is the name of the true identity of my being and of your being. I is that which is the offspring of God. I is that which came out from the Father's house and returns to the Father's house, the emanation of pure soul. And when I know my true identity in that way, then my body must manifest the qualities and the properties of God, and not only in conduct, but in health. Now witness this. I have not used the power of good to destroy evil. And therein does the infinite way differ from probably every teaching on the face of the globe. The infinite way never turns to God to overcome evil, for it is based on a spiritual premise that God's Spirit is infinite, and so there are no other powers, no other presences, but that one. I know all about appearances. I've seen hospitals and cemeteries too. I've read more funeral services than most people, so I know all about it. But I still say that I have seen the so-called dead stand beside their casket at their own funeral. I've seen the dead walk. So I know there is no death. I know that death is an illusion of the senses. I know that it's a claim of a power apart from God, the opposite of life. And I know this too, that as long as you are using one power to destroy another power, you are hypnotized in matter, in the atom dream, and with no possibility of entering the kingdom of God. My kingdom is not of this world. This world is a world of opposites. This world is a world of two powers. This world is a power of good and evil. This power is a world of sickness and health. This world is a power of wealth and poverty. This world is a world of war and peace. But in my kingdom, there are no battles. There are no wars. There are no healings. There are no saints and there are no sinners. There is only one. Now, if you surround yourself with the word I, and recognize that from time immemorial I has been the secret name of God, you will know that the qualities and properties of I constitute your identity, and then you won't have to do right thinking, and you won't have to manacle your hands to keep them from hitting somebody. You just live freely in the realization that pure soul, which I am, governs mind and body, and then let it be, and it will be so. But if in you, in any degree, is the thought that you are turning to one power, to do something or have something done to another power, you are maintaining yourself in the hell of human experience. You are only dehypnotized in the realization of your understanding of that I. That should show you, too, why it is an impossibility for anyone truthfully to go around calling themselves absolute and saying, I am God, or I am spirit, or I am spiritual, when there never was a grosser lie invented for the hypnotization of man than to make him believe that a mortal could be spiritual, that a human being could be angelic or divine, when the whole object of the realization of the I is to make that devil human die, not become immortalized by thinking it's God, but to make it die daily. All that's material, all that's human, all that's mortal must die daily, not become spiritualized. It must die, so that that which is I, that which is true being, which you don't govern but which governs you, which you don't affirm but which affirms itself in you, there you have the secret. Why do you think that I have devoted nearly 25 years to teaching meditation. Because in meditation, when the senses are still, that still small voice does say to you, I will never leave you nor forsake you. I am your being. I am your body. I am your health. I am your wealth. I am the bread and the wine and the water. I am life eternal. I am the resurrection. Don't you say it. Don't dare say it. It isn't true. You're uttering infamy against God, blasphemy against God, when you utter such statements. But if you can just be still enough and get into the rhythm of this universe, you will hear or feel something within you that gives you the assurance that there is something at the center of your being which is called by the name of I. You know that word I is so sacred that Hebrews aren't even allowed to speak it. Never were. Never were. Only the priests could go into that inner sanctuary of the temple and there dare to voice the words I am. They wouldn't dare voice it anywhere outside of that secret inner temple, and they won't today. I. No one dare you. Oh, we use the word I in our human sense. I'm going to be here tomorrow night, and you're going back to town tonight. That's all right. We're using the human sense of I. But aside from that, never confuse that sense of I with your dynamic reality. When you want to use the word I in that sense, whisper it. And only whisper it within yourself. Don't whisper it to another. In teaching, that's different. If you come to a place of teaching spiritual wisdom and you meditate for hours and hours and hours and hours in advance and find yourself inside the kingdom of God, find yourself inside the Spirit, then you can say to your student, I in the midst of you am mighty. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Have no fear tonight. Rest, rest, I am with you, and I will be with you. I will always be with you. But be sure of this, that when you say it, you're in the Spirit. Don't attempt to say it as a human being, because your patient or your student may rely on you, and they'll be let down badly. For such words and such utterances are only power when they come from the mouth of God, when they come from the Spirit, the soul, and atmosphere of God. And that is why when you teach or when you heal, don't think for a minute that you can just cold-bloodedly sit down and know some truths and heal. Don't believe that. I don't care what profound truths you know or how well you know them. They're not going to heal. You first get yourself back into the Spirit. Get yourself into the rhythm until you actually can feel the presence of God in you. Then you can voice your treatment silently or audibly, and you'll find how quickly it will have power in the experience of your patient or your student. But these cold words, coldly spoken out of the mind, they're cruelty to those to whom you voice them. They're false promises. Live always in this Spirit. Keep your mind permeated with spiritual truths, scriptural truths. Keep your soul filled with those things that assure you you have no desires, no needs, no requirements. You've given your life to God. If God can't take care of it, you're willing to lose it. Then when you have every assurance that there's no trace of selfishness in what you're doing, no sense of self-gain in what you're doing, no sense of profit, no sense of anything but fulfilling yourself as God wishes, then in that stillness and in that silence, listen, learn to listen. And when the Spirit fills you, you can say like Isaiah says back there in 61 and 63, Isaiah, the Spirit of the Lord God is upon me, and I have been sent to heal the sick, comfort the brokenhearted. Yes, 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 when the Spirit of God is upon you. You see, if you make these spiritual statements about your humanhood, you violate a great part of the New Testament, in which it is said that flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of God, and also, except the Spirit of God dwell in you, you're not the child of God at all. You're not the Christ, you're not the healer. Except the Spirit of God dwell in you, you're nothing, you're a mortal, man of death. But when the Spirit of God dwells in you, then do you become the children of God. Many people in metaphysics actually believe they were born children of God. Many people in metaphysics actually believe they are children of God, as far from the kingdom of heaven as the so-called devil. Why? Because flesh and blood cannot find entrance into the kingdom of God. But as the Spirit of God flows through you, you're no longer human. Outwardly you have the appearance of human, and outwardly you eat, and outwardly you drink, and outwardly you bathe. But inwardly you have left this world for my kingdom. And then you'll know what the Master meant when he said about the students and to the students, not that they be taken out of the world, that they be left in the world, but not of it. The only way to be in this world and not of it is to be in it and not desire anything or anybody that's in this world. When you're that completely free, then you're in the Spirit, and then when that I goes through you, it goes through with power. Now, attaining that Spirit of God is a matter of two paths. There are some who attain it themselves probably through enough reading of spiritual literature, enough meditating, that ultimately they break through. By far, most people who have attained it through the help of someone who has been there before them. That was the system that has come down to us from the beginning of time. We won't go any further back than Buddha, who drew his disciples around him, and through his enlightened consciousness, they became enlightened. Jesus, through his enlightened consciousness, drew his disciples, and not only disciples, apostles, and many others, became illumined through his consciousness, and all through the history of spiritual, religious literature, you will find that every time an individual attained this inner realization, that some attained it from them. We have one of the outstanding cases of that is the 12th to the 17th century in Europe, when through Boehm, Eckert, Tauler, Bloor, one illumined another, and through all those illumined ones, thousands, literally tens of thousands were illumined, so that we have a record there of 5 centuries, incidentally, a very sad European history, but during those same 5 centuries of sad European history, there were tens of thousands of people walking the earth spiritually illumined. And all through this small little group, or perhaps not more than a dozen that we know of, who were the original ones illumined. So it has been ever since. We in this country can remember back when we received healings through practitioners state of consciousness, or teacher's state of consciousness. That still is going on today. There are some who have attained some measure of spiritual light, and through that they are able to bring about healings and in many cases even teaching through their light. So there are the two paths. One is to find the illumined one that fits your particular state of consciousness, and through them attain your light. Although not entirely through them, you'll do a lot of hard work yourself. But if you do not have such an one, always remember that God is no respecter of persons, and no one can prevent your attaining if your devotion is sufficient. And that means, of course, hard work. Breaking through this material sense is not easy. You must remember that the goal is arriving at a state of consciousness where there is no battle left in you, where there is no desire for a great power to do something to some other power. Arriving at a state of consciousness of such complete peace and harmony that regardless of what evil appearance you see, you make no attempt to do anything about it. You make no attempt to find some great power that'll destroy this negative power. Oh, just look out at this world as it is today and follow its history from the time that it used bows and arrows against each other until it kept on increasing its power and increasing its power and increasing its power until the day when it has to have these atomic and nuclear, hydrogen and all the rest of these powers, and they still haven't found the power yet that can assure them that they've got that which will destroy the enemy. No power has been found great enough yet for the amount of evil that it's supposed to destroy. So, pondering those lines, eventually I'm sure you'll come to the same conclusion I have, that the answer to life does not lie in finding one power to overcome another power, but in achieving a state of consciousness in which no power is necessary. Now, it's in a state of consciousness, and it can be attained. In this idea of no power, here is the way to practice it. If it is morning when you're in your meditation, contemplation, then look out at the light and remind yourself that you didn't pray for daylight. It just came when it was ready. And remind yourself that if you should need darkness right now, you can't have it without waiting until its time comes. That even praying won't help you unless you pray until nighttime. Then you'll find it would have come without praying. Look at trees, look at flowering trees, look at fruit. And notice that no amount of praying brings that fruit or flower. No amount of praying puts apples on apple trees and peaches on peach trees. But that something over which you have no control is doing it. And the most that you can do is sit and be a beholder and contemplate this great, infinite, invisible. You can contemplate the activity of that which is invisible appearing visibly as flowers and as fruit and as daylight and as night, as stars and sun and moon. See how it is as you watch the oceans, ponder the tides, think down beneath the sea of the fish that you can't put there. But they're there. And think of how much of them you take out of there and yet how much of them is left there without your praying about it, without your turning to any great powers about it. It's all being done as you contemplate this great, infinite, invisible. Not only that, but some of these forces of nature, negative forces, uncontrolled forces, begin to come under control as you begin to ponder the nature of no power. Then that which is the essence of power again takes hold, and we find the tornadoes disappearing and the earthquakes disappearing and the tidal waves disappearing. Why? Because now they are not subject to the chaotic state of man's mind, but they are now under the jurisdiction of that which formed them in the first place and put the seas in their beds and the stars in their skies, and when left to itself does govern and control. We interfere in the activity of that control in our experience only in the degree that our mind action tries to control physical action, instead of letting our mind be an instrument through which the soul governs both mind and body. Now, the secret of this is found in the word prayer or meditation. Prayer is a form of meditation. Meditation is a form of prayer. So, we know that to sense we are in this world, sometimes good and sometimes evil. The way out, the way to this dehypnotization is through prayer, meditation. Only when you go to your dictionary, cut out the word prayer and its meaning and tear it up so that you won't be tempted to believe in such forms of prayer. The prayer that brings dehypnotization to you is the form of prayer in which, to begin with, you acknowledge an infinity. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee. Lean not unto thine own understanding, acknowledge him in all thy ways. So that the first step in prayer is acknowledging an infinity. There's nothing better for that than the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd. He maketh me to lie down. He leadeth me. No turning to God there at all. No asking for any divinities. No asking for great powers. There is the beginning of prayer, that acknowledgement. The Lord is my shepherd. Not only my shepherd, the Lord is the shepherd of every saint and sinner in the world. The Lord is the shepherd of the world. The Lord is the only power. And then in that acknowledgement, there comes the ability to settle back into a rest or a rhythm or a relaxing. And when that comes, one is in prayer. For prayer is a state of receptivity to truth. Prayer is not a voicing something to God. Prayer is not declaring or affirming something. Prayer is not a getting something from God. Prayer isn't even a giving. Prayer is a state of receptivity. One is in prayer when they are listening for that still small voice. Speak, Lord, thy servant heareth. I am in prayer. And then something moves in, and it guides the fingers. It guides the body. It guides the mind. It directs. It illumines. It teaches. It is all things to all men. It creates music in some, art, literature in others, religion in others. It's not given to every person to be on the religious path of this type, but art is a religion, and music is a religion, medicine is a religion. Anything is a religion to which one's heart and soul is devoted with a motive of good. That is why I said before that materia medica will be an instrument through which all disease will be ruled off the earth. Why? Because it isn't intended that man should ever be sick, and one way or another, sickness must be taken from him, and it will. So remember this, everyone's path may be a different path, but every path is a sacred one, none more sacred than another. The path becomes sacred by our motive. Any path where the attunement is made to the Spirit working through is a sacred path, a godly path, a spiritual path. And if we're on a path that isn't ours, we'll be moved from it into another. Prayer is the secret, but prayer is a state of receptivity. Now, you are hearing and you are reading a great deal about this age of the ending of material power and the coming of spiritual power. Only I ask you, please, when you hear such things, do not really believe that there is some power going to come into existence to do what material power isn't doing, because it isn't power that we need, and it isn't power that we're going to get. It is that state of consciousness of no power, and that is the power. That is the power itself, the no power, where there are not two forces combating each other. Now, will you please remember that this is the central theme of our classwork for 2 weeks. That, and it's the point that you must carry home with you, that there are not two powers, and that you are seeking one power to destroy another. Only now, instead of atomic power, you're going to call it spiritual power, but you're going to do the same thing with it. You're going to destroy communism or Russia or... So don't believe that at all. Don't believe that you're going to find some undiscovered power to do what the discovered powers aren't doing. You aren't going to find a power to destroy anything or overcome anything. You are going to overcome the belief that there is good or evil in effect or in form. And when you attain that state of consciousness, that you can actually say this hand is neither good nor bad, or that you can even take out your wallet and say this money is neither good nor bad. My soul is good, and my soul, if money is needed, will produce the money. But the money has no qualities of good or bad. Then you'll find that you are not attached to money, nor will you give it the power to do things. You'll find out that it is a medium of exchange. But if you want plenty of it, stop desiring it. If you want plenty of it, stop trying to get it. I don't mean stop working, but don't work with the idea of getting money. Work with the idea of expressing yourself. Money is one of those things that you have within you, qualities of the soul, and it'll flow when you stop putting power in money, or power in things, or power in bodies, or power in persons. And the only way you can withdraw it is to understand that there is an invisible power acting upon the visible. Ponder your trees before they're in bloom. And no matter how barren they are, realize that there is something operating that will fill that tree soon with leaves, buds, blossoms, fruit. And then you'll understand why you don't worship or store up the fruit where moth and rust doth corrupt. You use it, sell it, share it, give it, knowing behind it lies that which created it. So with us. We do not hug to ourselves any form, but we enjoy all forms. Let them come, let them go, knowing always that the invisible is producing the visible. Not by power, not by might, not by power, but by my Spirit, saith the Lord. There it is, not by might nor by power, not by physical might, not by mental power, but by my Spirit. Let go of your physical might, let go of your mental might, and relax. And as you relax, you'll be filled inwardly with the very Spirit of God. And you see the Bible promise, where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. That too can be a theme. That too can be a treatment. That too can be a prayer. Where the Spirit of the Lord is. Where is the Spirit of the Lord? And don't say everywhere. If the Spirit of the Lord were everywhere, there wouldn't be a sin, disease, or death on earth. The Spirit of the Lord is wherever the Spirit of the Lord is recognized and realized. Wherever it's felt. Where it isn't, it just isn't, that's all. If the Spirit of the Lord were present everywhere, then everywhere would be heaven. But the Spirit of the Lord is present only where it is realized and in the degree it's realized. Spirit itself is a state of omnipresence. But the Spirit of the Lord is that place where it is recognized, realized, demonstrated. And so it is. If the presence of the Lord were the thing in and of itself here, then we'd all be lifted up instantly without anyone thinking or doing, without even this study. But here we are come together from all over the world for what purpose? To realize the presence of God. Why didn't we stay home and do it? Because it isn't that simple. Where two or more are gathered together in my name. Where one or more is illumined, they can help to lift up all of the others. That's why we're here. We are here because the Spirit of the Lord has to become realized in order that the Word become flesh and dwell among us. Certainly the Spirit of the Lord's here if there wasn't a person on earth, but it's of no avail. It's of no avail. It's only efficacious, it's only power, it's only presence where it is realized. And that is the importance of all spiritual teaching. Will you please remember that had there not been a Moses, the Hebrews might well have been slaves of Pharaoh to this day. And please remember, if there had not been a Jesus, we may have been in Hebrew ignorance today. Please remember, if there had not been this enlightened one or that enlightened one, no progress would have been made. It has well been said that no corporation or board of directors ever invented anything or discovered anything. Only individuals bring forth God into realization, and through that individual it operates. You can only be a spiritual blessing in your household in proportion as your individual consciousness is illumined. And if you have it illumined with a candlelight, that is as much of a blessing as you can be. And if you fulfill yourself through devotion, practice, study, communing with those on the spiritual path, you can be a greater light in your household, in your community, in your nation. But there must be an individual illumination. That's your responsibility and mine, that we so fill ourselves that we, at least in some measure, emulate the example of those men and women who have taken their part in the relay race of time and have passed on the baton from one to another and one to another until it has come down through the ages from Krishna to us. And each one of us receives that torch with instructions to get through and carry it to the next post. No one in the history of the world has ever been the full light. No one ever will. But each one of us is instructed with, or entrusted with that torch to carry it on to the next one. This age will know just as many discords and inharmonies as the last ones. The next age will know just as much chaos as the past ones. But just as in those past ones there were men and women of spiritual vision passing on this torch from one to another till it reached us, so will we keep on passing it from one to another, each generation producing its own mystics, its own spiritual teachers and disciples and apostles, until he come whose right it is, and all discord is ruled from the earth. Now, if you can rule out of yourself a headache, or out of another, through the ability to withdraw from the use of power, just to be still and realize there is neither good nor evil. We're not called on to heal man. We're not even called on to call on God to heal man. We're just called on to know the truth, that there is no evil, and there is no good in any form or effect, and stay in that until an answering feeling comes within us, some kind of a release or awareness. And then, if as a result of that you find that you or someone else is relieved of a headache, please take my word for it, you have got the secret, which eventually is going to rule out every bit of discord there is on the face of the globe. Because if this principle operates even as the Wright brothers' principle operated to keep a plane up 57 seconds, you have seen that that principle operates now to keep it up 24 straight hours. If this principle operates really and truly to meet your slightest need or that of your family, physically, mentally, morally, or financially, be assured you've got the secret that is going to ultimately wipe out all discord from the earth. You are not going to be called on as practitioners or teachers to do the work that Christian Science practitioners did in the past century or past era, for the simple reason that you are never going to have to be concerned with whether your patient is a metaphysician or isn't. You're never going to be concerned with whether they belong to something or don't. You're not going to have to be concerned with whether they're doing right thinking or wrong thinking. You're not going to have to be concerned with whether they're living in sin or whether they're pure. You are only going to be concerned with the principle. And as you know the principle within yourself, there's neither good nor evil in person, place, or thing, condition, circumstance, you will find out not only that the conditions of evil are wiped out, but the very people who heretofore have been thought to be evil enough to block their own harmony will lead different lives. Don't ever forget that. This healing ministry is something more than just a personal one of healing your or my petty ills. This ministry is learning through the mind a principle which embodies itself in the soul so that you can walk up and down the street and it won't make any difference to you whether it's a Jew out there or a Catholic or an enemy German or an enemy Russian. You will still be knowing a principle that will heal them. What difference does it make who they are or what? Wouldn't it be a wonderful thing if we knew a principle that would heal every communist of being a communist? Every tyrant of being a tyrant? Why should we have to wait for him to be good before we give him a treatment? Let's give him a treatment when he's just real good and bad. This is a ministry that does not concern itself with personal problems, but with principles, yet through knowing the principle, the personal problems disappear. Sounds wonderful, doesn't it? I've seen it work. Thank you for tonight.